Another edition of our GAGS Goals updates. For this video today, we're going to hit pause. I'm not going to really talk too much about a training recap and things like that. We're going to save that for the next week's video. With the new year coming up, we're entering 2019. Pretty crazy. For me, this marks 2019 marks over. I started my powerlifting and coaching journey at near the end of 2005 and kind of the start of 2006. So we're kind of entering my 13th year of competitive powerlifting, and as well as my coaching career as well. It's when I started coaching football and wrestling, doing volunteer work as a strength and conditioning coach for my old high school. So that's kind of where everything started. So it's definitely a special time since it's been over a dozen years. It's been well over a decade, getting really close to that 15-year mark of both competitive powerlifting and coaching. So really exciting time for me. So I want to talk about New Year's resolutions a little bit today. This is kind of going to be a hot topic, and some people have very strong opinions on it in the fitness world, not just the powerlifting community. And while I'm not like the biggest fan of New Year's resolutions in the sense I don't think people should kind of wait for a specific date to get started. But that being said, it is a great time to reflect, and it is a great time to set new goals with a new year starting. So if something like a New Year's resolution gets you motivated to start, that's great. Use that as motivation. But just realize that a lot of these principles we're going to talk about today can apply not just for the new year, but really anytime you're trying to start something new. We all kind of know that person that says, I'm going to start my diet Monday, and Monday never comes, and it keeps getting pushed back and pushed back. So it's really important now, whatever you end up being, whatever your goal and New Year's resolution is, it doesn't really matter if you're starting on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Just start today and start. And something simple as like writing your goals down. So I want to kind of recap. I'm going to go through this really quickly because we have a podcast on goal setting already, and we have a video on goal setting already. So definitely we'll include that in the description below. So definitely check that out because it's a whole it's like an hour. I think I don't know. I think it's close to like an hour-long presentation. It might somewhere in the neighborhood of that, at least 30 minutes, but. So I'm just going to go through, let's go over goal setting very quick, and we're going to go through like our philosophy. I'm going to use an example of an old goal I had. Maybe I'll even use I'll use a goal that I have either way. So I'm sure we've all heard the acronym SMART. Make your goals SMART. And there's many different takes on this, but just to recap really quickly, when you're setting a goal for yourself, you want something that's specific, measurable, attainable. You want a reason for it, and then you want a time frame. You want a deadline, basically. So really quickly, I'll just again use. So my next upcoming competition is April 6th. I should know this was for the video, but yeah, it's April 6th. It'll be in York. It'll be in Pennsylvania. It's an RPS meet. It's Powerpalooza. I did this meet. I did this past year, 2018. I did this meet at 242. I'm working towards getting my weight down to 198, so I can, now I kind of maybe mentioned this in some of the previous videos. If I end up doing this meet at 220, that's fine, but my target weight for 2019 is going to be 198 pounds. I should say my target weight class will be 198 pounds before this year is said and done. And I'd like to get my body weight down to about the 220 range. Right now I'm a little bit heavy. I'm probably around more 240 pounds. I had some of my mom's Christmas cookies, so it put me a little over the edge a little bit, but I'm getting back on track. So just like you guys, I'm human, and I fall off track too. So I'm partly doing this podcast for selfish reasons for myself, because I want to also reset my goals, and I'm going to talk about some of the things that I'm going to be doing and what some of my New Year's resolutions are as well. So going back to the goal setting, so you want to have something specific, measurable, attainable. You want a good reason and a time frame. So a 2,000 total, is that specific? Yes. Is it measurable? Yes, it's measured in pounds. Is it attainable? It is attainable. It's a little bit of a stretch. Last year I totaled at 242, I totaled 1,900 pounds. So that'd be like adding 100 pounds to your total in a year is not something astronomical, but it is a lofty goal, especially for someone that's dropping a weight class or two, and also that's been in the game as long. I have a high training age, so for me to hit an all-time PR total is going to be very challenging, and I definitely need the stars to align. I'm going to have a lot of travel going on, so it's going to be attainable, but it's going to be lofty. I do think, depending on your personality, and we'll go into this more into the goal setting podcast, but depending on your personality, if you tend to have high anxiety, or you tend to overthink things, or you tend to stress things, sometimes setting the bar low can actually be better, especially in the beginning. So you may want to set something that's really small in the beginning, and then once you kind of get over that hurdle, you can start to raise the bar a little bit more. If you are some different personalities, they say pressure can make diamonds or dust. So different personalities can set a more like kind of more unrealistic goal. And depending on your genetics and things like that, I think there's really no unrealistic goal per se. There are unrealistic time frames, and depending on your genetics, maybe the time frame that you would need, might exceed your, how long it would take you to peak or your lifespan, etc. So, but these kind of more unrealistic, these more lofty goals, I think can be a great driver. And I think there's a great quote, like, what doesn't challenge you won't change you. And if it doesn't scare you, then, they say that if it doesn't scare you, it's probably not heavy enough, or the weight in the bar isn't heavier enough. So having a goal that's a little bit scary and putting it out in the universe, I think can be very powerful, but it really depends on your personality, and you need to make sure that you're ready for it. I think at the end of the day, you need to kind of believe it yourself, and you need to have a strong reason for it, which goes into my next thing. So for my personal reasons, for a lot of my personal lifting goals, my nutrition goals, is it all comes down to being a better leader. Identify as a coach first. So for me, I need to be healthier, I need to be stronger, I need to lead by example, I need to lead the front. We have that kind of painted on our walls here. I think it's very, very important to coaches to lead by example. I don't necessarily believe that coaches need to be like all-time record holders, and most of the time I don't see that the best of the best athletes are not always the best coaches. Sometimes you might have someone, oftentimes in my opinion, what I've seen is someone who's kind of an average lifter who had to really push themselves very hard, and they had to learn a lot. They learned through a lot of mistakes. Usually those are kind of the really good coaches that maybe were not the best athlete, but they worked really hard at it, and they got to a pretty decent level, with usually more than a decade of experience. It's kind of like the Mark Bell decade rule. I do kind of believe that it does take a decade to become very great. You need to be consistently good for a long period of time, and usually for a long period of time, that usually means a decade or more. So for me, it all comes down to being a better leader. That's kind of what drives me, what drives my progress, and why I still want to compete. And I love challenging myself. I think it's great, and I think it allows me to keep a pulse on what my athletes are going through and our team are going through. What our athletes are going through with our team, and that's going to help me becoming a better coach. The time frame. So again, I think the time frame is good because setting it so I have a specific meet, and that's why I like competing, regardless of if you're a recreational lifter or someone who's more competitive. I think doing competitions, whether they be more for fun or more serious, like something like a U.S. Open comes to mind, or like a USAPL Nationals comes to mind, where there's a little bit more at stake. At the end of the day, powerlifting still is a hobby for most people, but having that time frame, having that deadline is going to be super important because it gives you something to shoot for. I know for me, I wouldn't have as much of a sense of urgency to lose my weight and make the weight class if I didn't send my check in, sign up for the meet. It puts a little more of a sense of urgency and lights a little fire under your butt to kind of get you going. Otherwise, I still might be 308 or 340. Again, I was 340 at my heaviest. So if I didn't set those deadlines for myself, I didn't sign up for those competitions, I wouldn't have had like the motivation to kind of continue. So that's an example. Like my 2,000 total is my goal. That's my strength goal, so to achieve a 2,000 total in 2019, specifically on April 6th. I also want to, like I said, do at least one meet at 198 pounds during 2019. Whether that happens in April or it happens sometime in November or December of this upcoming year, we'll see. But that's what I'm kind of shooting for. And as they say, if you kind of shoot for the stars, you end up on the moon. That's not so bad. So I think it's really important that the time frame can be flexible. So if you don't achieve your goal in the time frame that you first picked out, that's okay. You can always extend it out and you can reset your goals moving forward. So that's talking about our goal setting. Now, we always talk about why is a goal important. We say that the goal is kind of like getting in a car. Training without a goal is kind of like driving without a destination. Unless you're like a new kid that just wants to learn how to drive, most of the time if you're an adult and you have experience, you're not going to just get in a car and start driving. You're going to have some sort of destination, and then you're going to, nowadays we have a GPS, and a GPS is often like a coach. The GPS is going to kind of reroute and re-navigate as roadblocks come, and it's going to help you achieve your destination that much quicker. And the GPS can help you get to your destination in the quickest, most efficient way possible. And so that's kind of like a coach. So directions are kind of like what I would consider the analogy. The directions are kind of like a program. where you might have a program or something, kind of written out, but the coach is like the GPS, and it's going to kind of auto-correct and auto-regulate and make adjustments for you on the fly. So that's why I feel like goal setting is very important for people. It gives you some structure. Now, that being said, I also think that it's really important that you write your goals down somewhere where you can see them every day, where it's tangible. Now, something that is really important, we want to also focus on not just the goal itself, but what's the process behind the goal. So this was another goal I have for myself, a bucket list goal is to deadlift 700 pounds again. Whether that happens this might be a little, I'll use my goal for my next goal. I'd like to do a triple body weight deadlift, my next meet. So if I do the meet at 220, that would equate to a 660 pound deadlift. So some things I would need to do to improve that. So these are some daily or weekly actions would be breathing and bracing to improve my core integrity and spine position, doing more glute activation exercises. So that might mean doing more bird dogs, doing more hip thrusts, doing more 45-degree back extensions. So glute activation exercises to help my lockout, thoracic spine and hip mobility to improve my starting position, especially in the sumo. Talking about focusing on good nutrition, so I'm fueled probably, so having carbs pre and post workout, and going to bed before, being in bed, getting ready for bed at 9 p.m., being in bed before 10 p.m. every night to help improve my sleep. So those are kind of 5 kind of weekly and daily actions that I would take to help improve my deadlift and help make sure that I'm achieving my goal of achieving a triple body weight deadlift my next meet. So those would be some daily actions. So you want to think about what are some habits that you can do. So if also, I'm going to give you some other examples. These are some examples from Brian St. Pierre, who at the time I believe was writing for Precision Nutrition. So I think some of these habits are from Precision Nutrition. So don't quote me. I just want to kind of give credit where credit is due. But this was kind of an article that Brian St. Pierre. So these are some principles. So this would be like maybe your goal is more weight loss related for the new year. One habit or a process might be I'm going to eat every 3 to 4 hours and eat 4 to 6 times per day. Okay. Another habit might be I'm going to eat protein with every meal. So you're going to have some sort of lean protein every meal, for example. Maybe you have trouble eating veggies, so maybe a habit is I'm going to eat at least 1 serving of veggies at every meal, a vegetable or a fruit. For me, like something that I'll use some of my own habits as an example, I'm going to only have carbohydrate around my training time. So of course during the holidays that was not true, so that's one of my habits I need to kind of regain. So it's a habit I'm going to focus on. I'm only going to have rice pre and post workout. That's it. So for example, I'm going to have protein every meal. So I'm going to have some sort of lean beef usually. So I'm going to have lean beef maybe about 3 times per day. And that's going to help satisfy my protein requirement. So those are some examples of some habits I'm going to be working on. So some other habits I'm going to be working on as well. I'm going to going back to my yoga and meditation and doing some mindfulness. And when we talk about yoga in our system, it's more of like a recovery, breathing kind of. The goal of our yoga practice is more of mindfulness, down regulation, so we get into a more relaxed state. Just a real kind of quick thing, because I think it's important. You could be sympathetic, which is like if I'm going for like a 1 rep max squat, or if I'm getting in a fight with somebody, or if I'm running from a saber-toothed tiger. That's kind of your fight or flight nervous system. That's a sympathetic pattern. Parasympathetic is like rest and digest. So when I'm relaxing, when I'm doing deep breathing. So if I'm doing some light, gentle yoga, yoga type movements, that's going to help. I can kind of tap into my parasympathetic nervous system. I can help calm down. I can do some very light breathing exercises, help reduce my heart rate a bit, help relax. And it's going to help speed up the recovery process. So doing yoga 1 to 2 times a week, upping my 10-minute walks. Once it starts to get nice outside, I've been already starting to do this. I'm going to do some more walks around. There's a lake by my apartment that I love, so just being in nature and stuff, so doing a walk like 3 times a week. So doing yoga 1 to 2 times a week, walking about 3 times a week, out physically outside. So these are some habits I'm going to work on. So these are some things. So you could have a more SMART goal that's going to be very specific, but you could also have some process-oriented goals that we call these like your daily and weekly actions. That's going to be kind of compromise what your roadmap's going to be. So my goal, in order for me to achieve a 2,000 total, there's going to be a lot of things that I'm going to need to, one of my process goals might be I'm going to train, with a barbell 4 times a week, and I'm going to adhere to my program a certain percentage or whatever. So everything. So for me, like training is something that's kind of ingrained in me. I don't really have to think about it too much. So I don't really need to write those down. But where something like my yoga practice, my walking, those habits, or like as of right now, I kind of lost my habit of only eating my carbs around my training time. So those are some things I'm going to write down and be very specific with, because that's something I need to work on personally. Everyone's going to be different with what things they need to write down. So I'm going to write down the process-oriented goals and daily actions that I need to focus on. So you need to think about whether if your goal is weight loss, if it's muscle gain, if it's strength or performance related. Think about like 3 to 5 daily and or weekly actions. More than 5 is going to get a little crazy. So think about like 3 to 5 things that you can really hone in and focus on. And then after like a 90-day period, usually you can kind of ingrain that habit. So somewhere between 30 and 90 days, then you can kind of focus on some 3 to 5 different things moving forward. So these are really good ways to kind of improve just your general health and well-being and allow you to kind of stay on track. So those are some things. Now what we're going to do is we're actually going to also open this up a little bit. We have a Powerlifting for the People seminar on January 19th. It's at Gaglione Strength. It's at 32 Allen Boulevard right here in Farmingdale, New York, Strong Island, New York. I want you guys to post in the comments section. I want to hear like your best New Year's resolution. What are some of your action steps? What are some of your goals? Comment below. The best response, we're going to give you guys a free pass to this seminar. So, I don't really care. There's no like kind of limit to how many people comment and stuff, but anyone that kind of writes down a really cool, resolution and goal. So I want to hear what's your goal. Make sure your goal is SMART. And then I want you to write down 3 to 5 daily and or weekly actions that you're going to take. So that's kind of like your homework, and we're going to reward you for it. So we're going to give some prizes, and so like the top prize will be like a free pass to our seminar on January 19th, right here at Gaglione Strength. So I want to hear about your New Year's resolutions, and I'm just going to leave you with one thing, just to kind of help recap everything kind of, and I've said this to our team today. I wish I remembered the UFC fighter that said this, but I think it was a Brazilian guy. It'll come to me. It's on my YouTube channel if you want to search it. But one of the things I heard on New Year's Eve many years ago. You can have 2 kind of mindsets when it comes to goal setting, when it comes to just approaching your life. You can be the thermometer, or you can be the thermostat. If you're a thermometer, and the thermometer in general, like you just, whatever the temperature is in the room, someone's going to tell you you're reading. So if it's 70 degrees, the thermometer reads 70 degrees, and someone's going to tell you that reading is 70 degrees. Whereas the thermostat, you can adjust the temperature to whatever you want. And if you are like figuratively like a thermostat, you could set your own temperature to whatever you want, whatever you like. And certain goals, if you have a really lofty goal, maybe you're going to need to set it a little hotter. If you don't have as lofty of a goal, you don't need to set it as hot. But you're in control. You are in control of your effort, and you are in control of your attitude. You are in control of your effort and your attitude. So things like genetics and other things are out of our control. So I want you to think when you're writing your New Year's resolution, and don't worry about what other people are going to think. The only person that matters is yourself. Don't let someone read your temperature. You set your own temperature. So that's your main mindset going into 2019. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for supporting the channel. 2018 was a really hard year for me personally, between my weight loss journey and many other factors. And I really appreciate the continued support. I feel like we ended 2018 better than ever. The team, my personal relationships, the business, like everything is just really shaping up. And I know it maybe seems like we say this every year, but I really feel it's true, because I'm constantly striving for growth. But this wouldn't be possible without you guys. So I definitely want to increase the engagement. I want to increase, the opportunities for you guys to learn, and I want to hear more feedback. So definitely post up your New Year's resolutions in the comments below. Again, your SMART goals. Post up your SMART goal, your New Year's resolution, and 3 to 5 action items that you're going to use to reach that goal. And the best person will get a free ticket to our Powerlifting for the People seminar on January 19th. Thank you guys so much for watching. Have a very happy New Year. And until next time, stay strong, and we'll see you soon.